Hello, hey everyone. In this video, we will be talking about uh, the functional component and a class component. So basically in React, we can create the components in two ways. One is a functional component and second one is a class component. So we will be discussing about how we can write a functional component and how we can write a class component, and basically what are the syntax differences in these two types. Um, Yeah, and let's get started. And yeah, welcome to my channel. And if this is the first time that you're watching my channel, just subscribe to my channel so that you will get all my new videos as notifications. And yeah, let's get started. So here I have a very simple application. It has just the app.js file, and it just has a label which says I'm from app.js, okay, and which is actually called from the index.js. Okay, so that's pretty much this application has just one file, and I have this application up and running in my local. And if you go to here, it's running in localhost 3000, and you can see the label I am from app.js. Okay. So that's pretty much it. So now what we are going to do is we will first we'll talk about the functional components. So we'll create a functional component, and we will call that functional component from this app.js and see how it is rendering. Okay. So let's create one functional component. So for that I am creating a folder for the components. Create a folder. I'm creating a new file for the functional component, which says functional component dot JS. Okay, so functional component is nothing but it's also called as a stateless component. So which means it doesn't manage any state or anything. So it just gets some properties, it creates the UI and just returns it. Okay, so it's you can write the functional component just like you write any other JavaScript functions, right? So it's just like this const functional component. I'm writing it as an arrow function. So const functional component. So this is basically the syntax to define a functional component, and you just return what you want to return in this one. So basically you should have a div. Inside a div, I'm just saying I am from the functional component. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So you can then call export this functional component. It says export default functional component. Now that's pretty much it. So there's a way to define a functional component. You just define that as similar to a JavaScript function, and then you just return whatever you want to return. Just a just a UI piece of it, right? So whatever you want to return, so you just write it inside the return. So now what I will do is I want this. Let's close that out, and then inside the app.js, what I will do is I'll import the functional component which I created. Import functional component from slash components slash functional component. Okay, so now I have the functional component in here. So what I can do is I'll go and call this functional component here. So that's pretty much it. So I should see I am from app.js, and then the I am from the functional component. So I should see these two labels in my screen now. So yep, it's refreshed. I can see I am from app.js, I am from functional component. Okay, so and next thing is, so we'll create a class component, and then we'll do the same thing. We'll import that to the app.js, and then we'll see how that one works. Okay, so I'm creating another file inside the components folder which says class component dot js. Okay, so the class component is something that you should always be extending from your React component. Okay, so first of all I will import the React from React framework. Okay. And the syntax to create a class component is use class, then the component name, and it should extends from react.component. Okay, and it will have a default constructor where you can set your state and everything, but we will just come to that later. So here how it works is you will have a render function inside you, which you return the JSX file that you want to write, right? So let's say if I write something just to div I am from class component, and now okay, and export default class component, right? I'm sorry. So that's pretty much about it. So you have the class component defined here, and then I will import the class component here, class components class component, and I will do the class component here. So that's pretty much it. So I should now see I'm from app.js, then I should see the I'm from the functional component, and then I should see I am from class component. Okay, let's see. Yeah, it rendered. So you see all these three labels and it's working perfect. So now this is basically the main difference on the syntaxes. Here the functional component you will just write it as a regular JavaScript function, and then here it always creates as a class, then it extends from the React component. Okay, and just import this and then it is working fine. Okay, so next is we'll talk a little bit about what's actually what additional things that you can do in a class component, right? So in the class component, as I said, you have a default constructor method, right? So here you can define your initial states, right? So here is how you define a state. It says this dot state equal to, right? And let's say if I have a name and it says mark, okay? And let's say if I want to use that state in here, so what I can do is this is how I can use the state this dot state dot name, right? So now it should display the mark also here. Let me put a label here. It's this is the name. Let's put a break statement so that it looks a bit neat. Now if you go and reload your screen, you can see I am from class component and you can see the name is mark. So basically this is how you define a state inside the class component, and this is how you use it. Okay, and the next part is let's look at some events, how you if you have a button in your component and then you click on the button, you want to let's do some actions, right? So let's put a break statement here, and let's see I create a button, update name. Okay, I want to update the name, and this is my event on click, sorry, this is my update on click event. What I'm saying is I am calling a function this dot update name. Okay, so inside this I will create a function. I'm creating a arrow function again. I'm creating update name function, and let's say if I want to, let's say, update the state when you click on this button, right? So then you can do it using the this dot set state method. So set state is the method that you use to update the state, right? So this dot set state, then you say name as, let's say I'm putting it as John, right? So now what should happen is I should see both a button, and when you click on the button the name should change from Mark to John. Okay, let's see if it works. Yep. So now you click on the update name, it changes the name from Mark to John. So let me refresh the screen again. and when you hit update name button, it changes to Mark, changes to John. Okay, so this is how you invoke a function. And let's tell one more simple thing and then we'll close out. So let's say if you want to pass something from the function when you call it, instead of just directly hard coding here or just directly updating it, let's say if you want to pass like John from here, right? And let's say if you get the name, new name, and same as new name. So will this work? Okay, let's see. No, it is not working. You got some error. So what does this mean? So it's a simple JavaScript thing that, so whenever you just write a function call using just directly like this, it will be invoked when the screen is loaded itself. In this case, when the component is loaded, it doesn't wait for the button click or anything. It just executes the function right away. Okay, so whenever you want to pass a data like this, how we want to call is we should call like this. There is another way that you can use the bind function as well, but this is like one way to call it, right? So now this will work as expected. So whenever you click on the button, only when that function will be called, and this John will be passed to this function, and it updates the state from Mark to John. Okay, let's see if it works or not. So now I can see name as Mark, and when I hit update name, it changes the state to John. Okay, so this is how it works. So that's pretty much it. So now whatever we discussed, right? So we discussed about the functional component and how we can write a functional component, and then how we imported that into app.js, and then it worked. And then now we learned about how to write a class component and how to like set some initial states using this.state. We are able to display that state, and then we have a button. When you click on the button, we learned about the on-click event. So when you click on the event, you passed a new name from here, and then you set the state to the new name. Okay, so I want to keep this video short, so I'm just stopping here. So I hope you learned something from this video. So if yes, just hit subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you will get the notifications, and thanks for watching.